Hello and welcome to a new Google Sheets video in Practical Sheets. Today I'm going to show you, give or take, 10 ways to use ChatGPT or any other predictive text generation tool. Maybe in a year we're going to be talking about Google Bard, we're going to be talking about, maybe there are some other competitors we are not seeing right now. Apple should come with some soon. So be it ChatGPT or be it other, but right now everyone is talking about ChatGPT today, June 2023. So I want for us to start learning. This is a skill we need to learn to make our job more productive and not get scared, but just learn how to use it to make things faster. The things that are operative, let's make it faster. So I'm going to show you just some examples that maybe some of them you've already seen in action, some of you've already tried, or maybe some of them you didn't know, or maybe you even have some that I didn't know and you can tell me in the comments. So let's begin with the easiest and let's begin with saying what ChatGPT is. It's a text generation system, but basically it generates text based on a million sources algorithm. You ask him something and he completes what he believes is the best answer, taking from many sources it has. Okay, this is it. I'm sure you've already played with it. So you can have a free account or a pro account, and the pro account lets you, it's faster and you can access to faster models as 3.5 or 4. 3.5 is faster and 4 it's better. So we're going to use 3.5 in this example, so we do it faster. The first thing most of us already do in ChatGPT is to ask general questions. Now we're going to be talking about Google Sheets, so we could ask what is Google Sheets? And then you can continue asking over what you have asked. What is the key difference with Excel? So this is the first thing we can do. One thing to keep in mind is that not all of this is necessarily true. It's just a guide for you to know, so don't use it without reviewing in any presentation or anything, because sometimes these systems can hallucinate and can tell you some things that they think it's true and maybe they're not so true. So this is good for us that have this knowledge, because this won't always be 100% accurate. They will improve over time, but they do errors now and then, more often than you would think. So this is the first thing you could ask. General consultations about what is a thing. What is Google Sheets? What is a pivot table? And it will explain to you. Yeah? And you can explain me like I'm a 5-year-old kid, or put it in 3 bullets, or in 2 paragraphs, or anything you want. So this is the first thing. Ask him questions about how something is. This is the first way. The second is to go a bit further and to ask instructions. So the first thing was to ask general knowledge about a subject. The second is instructions. So now I know what is pivot table. And I know what is Google Sheets. So I could ask it, how can I build a pivot table in Google Sheets? Again, you need to take this with a grain of salt. It's not always 100% accurate. Sometimes it mistakes sheets with Excel. It has happened to me a lot. So, but just know that this would help me a lot if I don't know how to do a pivot table. I personally prefer to see a video, but to each its own, okay? And again, I could go deeper in each of the points. Well, but how do I do this? Or this is not working like you say, or whatever. Okay, so second point, you can ask instructions of how to do a specific thing, how to create a pivot table, how do I create a pie chart. The other nice thing about ChatGPT that maybe all of you already know is that it builds on what I have already told them. So if I already I'm asking about Google Sheets and I say pie chart, then he assumes that I'm talking about a pie chart in Google Sheets because we're talking about Google Sheets. It takes the context of the conversation. Okay, so then it tells me how to do a pie chart. Okay, so this is the second thing. The third thing, very nice thing, is to help me create functions or formulas in Google Sheets, in Excel, and a lot of people are using it for this. So for example, I say, how can I search for a customer in another Google Sheets? One of the tips of ChatGPT is that you need to be very accurate or very precise in what you tell. So here he understands that I'm asking for a function, but maybe a better prompt would be, what function can I use to search for a customer? Because if I ask this, it would say, no, well, you now open the sheet and go and look for it. But he understands that I'm talking about a formula, a function. So it's saying, open the Google Sheets where you want to perform the search, identify the columns, and it tells you what is the function, that is VLOOKUP. And it gives you an example. Very nice. And you could also tell him to build the exact formula. How do I search for a customer in cell BE? Share for the phone. Customer in cell BE, B3, sorry, B3, where the personal data is in another file in the range A1F, and the phone is in column D. Okay, so here it's saying that you need to mix VLOOKUP with import range, and it is important that you put the URL and the name of the sheet and all of that. Okay, so it helps us to create formulas. This is really nice, but again, you need to be very exact. And depending on your level, if you are an intermediate user, well, you will last longer asking than doing it, especially if you are looking for a simple function as VLOOKUP. But if you are starting with Google Sheets, it could be a really nice learning tool. It will help you when you are, instead of having to go to Google and look for VLOOKUP, here you talk as if you were asking a teacher. Okay? So this is the third thing, really nice, that we could do. And another thing is that we could translate, not only from Spanish to English, that is a thing we could do, but for example, now we're in a stage where we are between Excel and Sheets. I work in Excel and Sheets every day. So I could say, how can I do this? Excel. So we can translate the functions, although it's better in code, because in functions, the functions will be similar. But here it can tell you how to do the same things in Excel. Many times the functions will be the same, but many times will be a bit different. So this translation is a very, very nice help. Talking about languages or translation of languages, one really, really nice thing is to generate code. Here, I told them to generate functions. Okay, so any of these subjects, it's the subject of another video. We could do a video just on how to ask to do formulas. And if you have any suggestion, please leave it in the comments. But one really nice thing is that I could also help him generate code. So I could say, how can I create a conditional dropdown for multiple rows in Google Sheets? For example, this is wrong because this indirect doesn't work in Sheets. Here it's mistaking Sheets with Excel. This is for you to know that sometimes it does this. This is why it's very important to be very, very precise. How can I create a conditional dropdown from multiple rows in Google Sheets using Google Apps Script? Okay, so here it's generating code. So I know that there are a lot of YouTubers doing really crazy videos, doing games in Unity, Python, the language you want, and they're creating really complex code, all just with ChatGPT. It's not just ChatGPT, you need to guide it, but this is the same. Here you can create bases of code, and you can start telling, okay, my options will be in this other page. But the general idea is that you can create code. For example, how can I create a timestamp for cell for column B using Google Apps Script? Again, this is very generic. I should tell column B in my sheet that is called whatever, and I should be much more precise. If I'm more precise, the code will be better. I could also start iterating. This is the nice thing. For example, I see this and maybe this is not what I wanted. So I can tell it, okay, but I also need this and I also need that. Really nice thing, again, as we saw that we could change functions from Sheets to Excel, we could also change the code. How can I do this? In VBA or in this new language that Excel has for Office 365. I'm not sure how it's called, but it's also based on JavaScript. So I could, again, maybe this is not perfect, and I know that there are a lot of videos where people do this and then paste it in Excel to see if it works. This is not my intention today. I just wanted to do an overview of many of the things you can do with ChatGPT, again, knowing that this is just a starting guide. This is how I see it. I see this as a time saver, a starting guide, a time saver. You don't need to start from scratch. Even if this is not perfect, this is a very good guide, and you can see the comments and all that. That leads me to another point, a really nice point. So I'm going to go to Sheets. I'm going to look at any of my past codes. This one, for example. So I could take all of this. I'm going to paste it in my GPT and say, please help me comment this code. Careful, because comment may mean many things. I'm going just to paste it. I was space and paste it, and that's it. Let me see if it understands. So you can see that it gave me some comments, and it also gave me some corrections that the ChatGPT went behind my back and to the next subject. That is that you can correct also codes. I could give it a code that has some mistake. For example, I'm going to delete this, paste this, help me correct this code. And it understands that this E was wrong, so it helps me correct the code and also gives me some recommendations. Okay, and it also comments it. So this is really nice. You can send all the functions you have just to give it a review. Again, be careful, because in this review it may change with functions that are from Excel, from VBA, or something like that. Actually, I think this is a thing I'm going to do every time I do a new video of this. Just pass it through ChatGPT before I do the final template, just so that everything is working perfectly. Finally, what I'm going to show you is the content generation and analysis that ChatGPT can help us with. For example, I could say, create a list of random names. Again, try to be very specific, a list of 15 random names. Okay? And again, we could be more exact, create a list with name that also has name, first name and last name, or whatever. And for example, we could give an example. Create a list of 20 names. Here's an example. John D. Graham. And it takes this example. I don't need to say that I need first and last name. It just looks at the example and generates the names very similar to the example. Okay? And then I could take this and go to my sheets and paste it here. Okay? Be careful, because if you hit this paste button that GPT offers and then I paste it here, sometimes it pastes it differently, okay? And it pastes with the numbers and all that, so maybe I don't want the numbers also. So be careful with this. This could be a nice feature, but I prefer to select all and copy it. But I could go one step beyond. I could say, create a table of 20 customers. And this is really nice. It creates a table, but again, I'm not being precise, so it is making things up. It's saying that customer name, email, phone number, but I could be more precise and say, create a table of 20 customers with the following fields: name, last name, date of birth, country, email, and status, whatever. And again, I could do two things. I could paste it with this, that I don't like it because you can see why. I need to paste it here, and it pastes really horrible. So I prefer to select it. Just maybe you can select the first and go to the last one, Shift, and select all of it. Control C or Command C, and then you paste it here, and it pastes much, much better. And then you can fix the format as you want. So this is really nice. Another thing you could do is, as we did with the list, we could also send an example. For example, I could say here I'm going to do a table that says so I could give it just this, but I could also give it an example. And then you can copy this, go to ChatGPT, paste it here, and before pasting it, I'm going to say create a table of 20 group bands based on this example. And I'm only going to paste. I give it a space and paste it like this. It doesn't matter that it looks horrible. You click enter, and then it follows the example. In this case, it's real data, but it could also be fake data that it could work for an example or whatever. Okay, so again, I could just take all of these other bands, copy them, paste them here, and I have my data. So this is really, really nice for examples, for exercises, for rapidly generating data. Again, be it real, you may need to double check some of these, or it could be fake just, for example, to do data analysis and all that. Which leads me to one of the last points, that is the data analysis. I could, for example, take this data and say, bring it here and please tell me, summarize this data. And let's paste the table. And it gives me a total number of bands, most common genre, oldest band, newest band, band with most albums, band with fewest albums. Okay, so it's very quickly, I just paste something and it gives me a quick analysis. And again, I could be more thorough and be more specific in my analysis. I say, which is the, I don't know, how many bands start with B, whatever. Let's ask that, how many bands start with B? Again, it understands that I'm talking about this data and it says that too. Okay, or how many have female front, well, only cranberries. Okay, again, be careful, because here it says cranberries Dolores O'Riordan, but I don't have cranberries Dolores O'Riordan. So again, it can sometimes be talk about other things. So be very, very specific and always double check the data that it gives you. But let's think, for example, let's generate data, create a table, a dummy table, sales, costs, and profit of online academy. You see what this can do with just a prompt? Again, you could say, no, take this out. And what I want to do is take this and say, please, analyze the sales data presented. And you should already know, but you can paste it again if you want. And it gives me a basic, very, very basic analysis. Sales revenue varies from month. Well, this doesn't say anything. Maybe if it is a trending, let's see. The sales revenue shows some seasonal variations, tend to be higher towards the end of the year, while the expenses show corresponding increases during this period. So this analysis may not be the best thing, but again, it's a starting point that can give you a lot of ideas when you're doing data analysis, for example, very basic data analysis. There may be many other things that I'm not telling you today that we can do in the future. Well, one that I could go back, one in this generating data, is that I, for example, can generate text. This is one of the things that is most used right now, ChatGPT. For example, if I'm doing, I don't know, a report, note reports for students, or emails for the welcome email from my students, and then I'm going to put them in my Google Sheets to do a mail merge to send. So I could say, write a welcome email to my Sheets Academy. Be formal and joyful. It is addressed to students and should be no more than 3 paragraphs. Okay, so this generation, not only of tables that we already saw and lists, but also text, a very big time saver. There are many, many more, I'm sure, but the last I'm going to tell you today is that you can include GPT inside Sheets. I'm sure that maybe in some months we're going to see this integrated by Google, but for now, I can show you. There are many ways of doing it. You can even do it manually with Google Apps Script, pasting your API. But there are some complements, some extensions, like this GPT for Sheets and Docs. With you need to be careful, because the bad thing about this is that you need to have an API code, and to have an API code and for it to work, you need to be on the paid account. So just be careful with that to use the API. So just a warning. And again, it may be that in some months when the competition starts to be tougher, you're not going to need to pay, or you will have the access to similar tools directly in Google. For now, what GPT for Sheets and Docs does is first a list of new functions, all starting with GPT, that you can do similar to what we did in ChatGPT, but directly here. So you could say, GPT, create an overview of Google Sheets, a one paragraph overview. Let's close the quotations, close the parentheses. Let's adjust it. Okay, so you're talking to ChatGPT, but directly from Sheets. And you can use other of the functions. For example, you can use this GPT list function and say, give me 10 ideas for Google Sheets related videos in YouTube. And when I tell it GPT list, then it will put it in the format of a list. So each idea in a row. And I could do the same with table, for example, and given an example, very similar to what we did: name, last name, phone. And here I could see GPT, now not table, but not list, but table, GPT table. And I will say, give 10 examples of customers. And I'm going to put head, that is this. Enter. It's very similar to what we did, but again, directly in Google Sheets. And there are many other things we could do directly here. For example, we could generate the formulas, the same thing I showed you to create a formula, but all more convenient, located directly in Google Sheets. If you like this subject specifically, we could talk about it in another video. But for now, I just wanted to do the overview of many of the things you can do with ChatGPT and other similar systems. I hope you liked it. And if you like it, as always, there's no need to download this template, but you can download more than 70 templates in the Patreon page and ask me about these templates. And sometimes we have conversations. You can suggest me new videos and all that. If not, just a subscription in the channel is enough. But thanks so much to the Patreons that I have already. It's I'm really grateful, and it's great to have you. See you next time.